Manel Kape just knocked out Brandon Royval in the very first round in what I believe is one of the most impressive performances that we have seen in the history of the flyweight division. Guys, I've been glazing Manel Kape for a long time now, right? And a lot of people have been giving me some flack for that. They're like, you got to pump the brakes, Jake. You're going off the eye test, but we haven't seen the full package in the octagon time in and time out. We haven't seen it against the top flight competition in this weight class. Well, now have we seen it? And I got one thing to say, and that is welcome to the Matrix. Manel Kape, he is officially the most dangerous striker that we have seen in the history of the flyweight division. This guy, I've been saying, man, he's the X factor. He has the it factor. He has that thing in the flyweight division that the UFC is looking for. And that is why they've really just hung in there and dealt with all the shenanigans of Manel Kape that come along with this guy. And I've been up here saying, you can rip on Manel Kape for eye pokes. You can rip on him for groin shots. You can rip on him for missing weight and pulling out of fights and all those things. But when this man gets locked in the octagon, this dialed in, locked in version that we are seeing of him right now, this is the most dangerous striker that we have seen in the history of this division, man. When do we ever see flyweights with true one-shot starching power like this? We've never seen it. We've never seen it. And we know that all flyweights are fast. And the fact that Manel Kape looks faster than other flyweights out there and looks significantly faster than other flyweights out there, backed by having one-shot knockout power, is absolutely terrifying. So we got a lot to discuss. We're going to talk about the main event. I'm going to break it down. We're going to go through every single fight on this card. But guys, I mean, this was the final event of the year, right? 2025 has flown by, right? And not only was this the last event of the year, it went out with an absolute bang. Back-to-back crazy KOs in the co-main, in the main event. And it's the end of the ESPN UFC era, and I am excited. I'm excited for what's ahead with the Paramount deal. And listen, man, we got to hop right into this thing, man. I don't want to do too much yapping off the rip because this main event, it's easily one of the most impressive performances that we've seen in the history of this weight class, and I think it's one of the best performances of the year. Who does that to Brandon Royval? Joshua Van, who is now the champion, which, by the way, is a fluke champion. As much as I like Joshua Van, it was a fluke win over Pantoja. I don't even look at it as a win, right? It's just crazy and unfortunate, the way that whole thing played out, but it's not Joshua Van's fault, right? He's a young guy chasing his dream, becomes the champion. I get it. But at the end of the day, fluke win, fluke champion. And he's not going to hold the belt for long because if I'm Joshua Van, I'm sprinting for the hills. I want nothing to do with Manel Kape because I'm here to tell you, Manel Kape knocks out Joshua Van within the first couple of rounds. Without question, I have zero doubt in my mind. One of the most confident picks I could have in 2026 would be Manel Kape brutally KOing Joshua Van. And I like Joshua Van a lot. He's an outstanding boxer. He's very, very good. But I'm telling you right now, we've never seen anything like Manel Kape in this division. We just haven't. Welcome to the Matrix. What can he do? And how good is Muhammad Mokaev, by the way? You know I got to throw it in there, man. You know I got to throw my guy in there, man. We got to get Muhammad Mokaev back in the division because we got to talk about it as well. The flyweight division, this is the most excited and the most hyped I've ever been for this weight class in the history of the sport. I mean, this weight class is loaded. We got, dangerous guys all over the place, man. We got some names as well. Re-signed Mokaev. He should have never been let go to begin with. He holds a win over Manel Kape, which is aged beautifully. I know Pantoja beat Kape as well, and that's why I say Manel Kape is a guy that's really kind of figuring himself out, man. But the flyweight division is absolutely on fire right now. And if I'm Joshua Van, I know that he tweeted out, right, he welcomes on the challenge of Manel Kape. I'm running for the hills because I'm telling you right now, Manel is a disastrous fight for Joshua Van. Joshua Van, he's got excellent boxing. He's very, very good. Manel Kape will give him the work, man. The speed of Manel Kape and the power, it's just on a different level. So we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end here. But I want to recap what we saw in this fight, man. I'm all over the place, man. I'm so jazzed up about this because I have been glazing Manel Kape for the longest time. And I've had to deal with friends. I've had to deal with people saying, Jake, you think you know everything, man. you think you know better than us, man. And I'm like, look, man, hey, man, be careful, man. Like, I sit back and when I watch Manel Kape and I turn on the tape, there's just something special. There's just something special. Like, you necessarily can't put your finger on it, right? But I'm sitting there watching this guy fight and I'm like, am I the only guy seeing this? Like, are people not seeing the way that this guy's moving? Like, it didn't wow you what he did to Bruno Silva where he entered flow state, went full anime mode and just stunted on him? Went out there and beat Asua Mabaya, beat the brakes off of him, and then comes out here and does that to Brandon Royval. We've never seen that. Nobody's done that to Brandon Royval. Joshua Van, now granted, it was one of the greatest fights of the year. It's probably my fight of the year. But he went life and death with Brandon Royval, and if Van doesn't drop Royval late in round 3, Royval might get the decision nod. So at the end of the day, I mean, styles make fights, but we are clearly seeing that Manel Kape, he's got the it factor. He's got the X factor. He's lightning fast. He's super quick on the feet, mixes up the stances very, very well. And if you're not going to go out there and dive at the legs of Manel Kape and do everything that you can to get the fight to the floor, you are not beating this version of Manel Kape that we are seeing right now. This guy right now, I'm telling you, is the most dangerous flyweight striker we've seen. It's very rare that we get a guy we've never seen it, in my opinion. A guy that comes along in this division that poses the threats and the problems that Manel brings. And to go out there and, Brandon Royval's doing his thing, right? And I love Raw Dog, man. I love Brandon Royval. Really cool, right? Slick on the feet, well-rounded fighter. I thought we were going to see him grapple early in this fight because that's why I picked Manel Kape to win this fight. Because I knew that Brandon Royval, he's just not, while he's got good ground skills, he's got solid jiu-jitsu, right? And again, that win over Tyra's aged beautifully. You just can't strike with Manel Kape. You can't do it. Because while you feel safe, while you think that you're doing well, Manel, he basically lulls you into this false sense of confidence, this false sense of security, right? Because Brandon was landing some good kicks from range. But at the end of the day, Royval, I've said this so many times about him, his striking is good, but he's got this lazy recoil when he, after he throws his shots, right? He stings a shot out there, and on the recoil, he's just slow. He's slow getting back to his position. And if you're doing that against a lightning fast power puncher like Manel Kape, it's a disaster, which is why I picked Kape to win this fight. That's why I picked Manel to win this fight, man. So Brandon Royval will be back. He's going to probably just be fighting the up-and-coming guys now, right? He's kind of in a interesting position, not completely out of it, but it is the new generation of guys in the flyweight division, man. We're seeing that with the guys that are climbing to the top right now, and nobody has done that to Brandon Royval. Nobody's done that. The only TKO loss, I believe, in Brandon's career was because of an injury. Was, I think, the arm or the shoulder or whatever happened in that fight. I can't remember exactly. But so it wasn't like a real knockout. This is the first time that he's been knocked out brutally by Manel Kape, man. I mean, guys, I know I'm glazing, but seriously, when have we ever seen anybody in this weight class like Kape? When have we seen it? And we know how good Brandon Royval is. And a lot of the questions out there was, Manel, he seems like he's got the flash. He's got the style, right? Coming over from Ryzen. It's kind of been hot and cold in the UFC. Seems like it's always something. We can't get him in the octagon. This is why the UFC needs to hire a task force that's specifically dedicated to Manel Kape making it to the octagon. Because when he's in there, it's hard to see anybody beating this guy right now, man. I think that the two hardest matchups for him stylistically is a Mikhaev in a rematch and an Alexandre Pantoja, and even Tyra, right, because of the ground skills. But if you're just going to go out there and strike with Kape, good luck. There's nobody that's going to outstrike this guy because you might be ahead on the scorecards, but he's going to find that shot, man. And that's the difference. Manel Kape is planting his feet into the canvas, twisting and turning and sinking into these shots, man. He has supreme confidence in what he is doing right now. It's a scary fighter. It's a scary fighter, and people act like he has no ground game. His ground game is pretty good as well. He's got a pretty good ground game, and it's gotten better throughout the years. So I'm just not convinced that you could just go in there and take Kape down and just have your way, man. We are seeing Manel Kape, and like I said, welcome to the Matrix. This guy is on a different level. He's on a different level, and to do that to Brandon Royval is incredibly impressive. Incredibly impressive. We just haven't seen it. We haven't seen it, and Brandon was having some success, right? Picking and poking from range, landing the kicks. But once Manel figures you out, he starts throwing those feints, drawing out the reactions, and then the way that he just darts in and out of range, man, the guy is so fast. And to be that fast and that powerful at the same time in this weight class is insane. To stand out in a division that is known for speed and just that energizer bunny, bing, 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 all over the place, and then have that kind of power is just, it's like a cheat code. It's like a cheat code, man, and the fact that he did it to Royval is what's so insane. It's what's so insane, so that kind of leads us to what's next for Manel Kape, and look, I think that him and Tatsuro Taira are the clear guys that should be fighting for the belt next because Pantoja, he'll walk back into a title shot whenever he comes back and is healthy and ready to go. But Van, he basically didn't have a scratch on him because the fight didn't even really get going before, the injury to Pantoja. So I feel like the UFC is going to look to turn around Joshua Van pretty quickly in 2026 under the new Paramount deal. And, Tyra went out there and he dominated Brandon Moreno, right? It was a kind of a weird first round. Moreno was holding on to the triangle, but to go out there and not basically take any damage whatsoever, be the first person to stop Brandon Moreno, like, you get a title shot. But then again, Tyra lost a 5-round decision to Brandon Royval. Manel Kape goes out there in his first huge opportunity and brutally KOs Brandon Royval. The guy that Joshua Van went life and death with. The guy that Tyra went life and death with. Manel Kape went out there and ran him over in the first round. I feel like Manel's performance overshadows what Tatsuro Tyra just did. Now, it's not to say that Tyra shouldn't get a title shot, because I absolutely think that he is, him or Kape for sure. But my personal opinion, man, I'm going Striker's Delight. I'm going the boxing of Joshua Van versus Manel Kape, who in my opinion is the most dangerous striker that we have seen in this weight class. And I'm telling you, mark my words. Take it to the bank. Write it up, man. Whatever those sayings are, Manel Kape will knock out Joshua Van. Manel Kape is a horrible matchup for Van, dude. Horrible. I know Joshua Van's got good boxing, but he's not particularly fast for a flyweight. And he's more of a volume-based boxer. That ain't going to fly against Manel Kape, man. The speed of Kape, the versatility, the kicking game, and then as well as the boxing and the precision of Manel, this guy's for real, man. This guy is absolutely for real, and I want to see him fight Joshua Van for the belt next. That's what I would like to see. But again, if Tyra gets it, again, great fight as well. And Tyra has absolutely earned it. Going out there, finishing Brandon Moreno the way that he did, getting to his back, putting him in those dominant positions. It's wildly impressive, man. But if I had my choice, I'm giving it to Manel Kape. And I know that people might say, well, he's missed weight, the injuries, the this, the that. So, Tyra's basically been the more reliable guy, which is fair. So if you're going off of that, then I would understand why Tyra would get the next nod. And given, it's not his fault that Kape went out there and put on a great performance, because Tyra handled business, man. Because Brandon Moreno, to me, I thought was a pretty interesting and tough stylistic matchup for him. And he went out there and pretty much ran him over. But we've just never seen anyone do this to Brandon Royval. And considering that Van's going back and forth with him, even though Van almost knocked him out late in the fight, and seeing Royval have those, beating a Moreno, right? Having these wars with Pantoja and all these kinds of things. And there was no war here. This was a back and forth, pick and poke, kickboxing fight until Manel Kape got the range, marched him down, stepped in, and threw that nasty right hand around the guard. Manel Kape's for real, man. The guy's absolutely for real. And like I said, one of the most impressive performances that we've seen in the division's history. And I think one of the most impressive performances of the year for sure, without question. To go out there and do that, like I said, we've never seen that against Brandon Royval, man. Unbelievably impressive from Manel Kape. Got to give it to the guy, man. I figured he would go out there and win. I didn't think he would make it look that easy. I'm very surprised at how easy he made this look, man. But again, you're just seeing Manel level up, find that confidence. Guy's a serious problem, man. I think he's the most dangerous striker in the flyweight division that we've ever seen. He's a nightmare for a lot of guys. And like I said, look at the flyweight division. Kyoji Horiguchi, right? I picked him to go out there and beat Tagir. Stunned on him. Got a stoppage. He's back in the UFC. And Kyoji was 7-1. Before, leaving the UFC. And now he's back. So I think he's, 8-1 total in the UFC? You got Kyoji Horiguchi. He's booked to fight Amir Albazi. I think he wins that fight. You got Manel Kape. Kyoji holds a sub win over Kape from back in the Ryzen days, I believe. You got Tatsuro Tyra in the mix. You got Joshua Van, Pantoja. Flyweight is on fire, man. I feel like this is the best the division has honestly ever been. I'm actually, like I said, I was super excited for this main event, but I'm very excited for the future of the flyweight division. We need to get Muhammad Mokaev back in the mix, man, because I believe that him and Pantoja are the most well-rounded flyweights on the planet right now. But if you're stuck on the feet with Manel Kape in a 5-round fight, the guy that we're seeing right now, I know it's scary. I think it's scary. I know Mokaev was having success on the feet, man, but I feel like Manel Kape is just hitting a different stride right now in terms of the striking, man. Dude, welcome to the Matrix when it comes to Manel Kape. Dude's different. Giga Chikadze, Kevin Vallejos. I picked Kevin Vallejos to win this fight for, not exactly what we saw. I didn't think he was going to get a starching KO like that, right? Throwing that spinning back fist, landing with the forearm, right? Giga was picking him apart, right? And that's kind of what I anticipated. Giga to start fast, get ahead early, win the first round, and then Vallejos would take over. I picked Vallejos by decision, but like I said, I wouldn't have been surprised if he got a stoppage. It's just the fact that we've seen that, Giga's very durable. I don't think he had ever been finished. Right, and he was having a ton of success from range, right? The kicks, the speed, the footwork. He was busting up Vallejos, man. But at the end of the day, Kevin Vallejos reminds me a lot of Ilia Topuria, right? I'm not saying he's Ilia, but the build, the stockiness, the boxing, the movement. I feel like Kevin rolls the Ilia Topuria tape and tries to take a lot of tricks from the Topuria tool bag, man. The way he moves, that boxing, He's very, very good, man. Everything that he throws is with nasty power. And then Giga checked that kick, split his shin open. That was a crazy fight, man, because Giga was looking like he was just going to put on some sort of striking masterclass, was sticking and moving, right? Vallejos, I figured maybe he would look to grapple and slow down Chikadze a little bit, push him up against the fence, but Giga's takedown defense has improved throughout his career. I know it's not the best, but we've seen that he doesn't handle pressure that well. And Kevin Vallejos, man, this guy's very dangerous. I've been very high on him and, gets a win over the number 15 ranked Chikadze. So, I feel like Kevin's going to be in the rankings now, man. And the only loss in his career was to Jean Silva, I believe, on DWCS. So he's hunting for that Jean Silva rematch. I hope we get it at some point. And Kevin Vallejos, man, at 24 years of age, to be able to do what he's doing right now is wildly impressive. And to stop Giga Chikadze like that with a highlight reel spinning back fist that basically landed with the forearm, absolutely ferocious. Was tagging him with some big power right hands, man. I love watching Kevin fight. The boxing, the movement reminds me of like a Topuria brother, the way that he kind of, puts things together. So a little bit telegraphed with that low kick. I think he needs to, work on that a little bit. Throwing those blind kicks can get him in some trouble, but it really was looking like Giga was going to go out there and just kind of stick and move and pick him apart, man, and end up winning a decision, those kicks to the body, and that's pretty much what I expected. Giga to win the first round, but then Vallejos to take over, but to go out there and get a KO, wildly impressive. To be, I think, the first guy to finish a super dangerous guy, and Giga Chikadze, incredibly impressive, man. Cesar Almeida, Cezary, Oleksiejczuk. I thought that Oleksiejczuk was going to get a stoppage in this fight, but at the end of the day, I think he was compromised or something happened or whatever in the fight. I thought I was hearing whatever. I was on the live stream, so my audio wasn't up real loud, but I thought they said something happened to Oleksiejczuk. I don't know, but either way, he did what he had to do to win the fight, man. Cesar Almeida is incredibly dangerous on the feet, right? Former Glory kickboxer, very stationary though, and we've seen that while Almeida was finding ways to work back to his feet, his takedown defense is non-existent, which is why I picked Oleksiejczuk in this fight, because even though I thought Cezary would be able to get him out of there with a stoppage, I knew that this was also an option where if he doesn't get the finish, if Almeida's getting the better of the striking exchanges, well, Oleksiejczuk can just duck underneath and take him down. And, he was ragdolling Almeida all around. You would have never have thought that Cesar has done a day of grappling in his life. It was that bad. And that's been his kryptonite, is anybody that can grapple. If you have any bit of competent ground skills, you will beat Cesar Almeida, as long as you don't get clipped on the feet. Right, and then he was loading up on some shots. Cezary was timing him well. Beautiful entries as well on the takedowns. Very, very beautiful entries on the takedowns. Right, I think it says here he got 6 takedowns in the fight. So very good performance. Right, in your UFC debut, a lot of hype on Oleksiejczuk. Like I said, I train with the Oleksiejczuk brothers, man, and Michal gets frustrated when I say that Cezary is better than him, but he is. He is better than him. And again, it's your UFC debut. The lights are bright. You got a dangerous, ferocious striker in front of you. So to go out there and win a dominant 30-27, wasn't the most exciting thing whatsoever, but to go out there, do what you have to do to get a win, big victory for Oleksiejczuk, man. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. Extensive amateur career, extensive local pro scene career prior to the UFC. He checks all the boxes, man. The kid's for real, and I think he's better than his brother. Big win over Cesar Almeida. Just, again, take the path of least resistance and make sure you go out there and get a win in your debut. Melky Costa versus Moragn Charriere. Oh, and I picked Cezary to win that fight. Okay, Melky Costa. I told you guys about Melky Costa, man. I've been picking this guy in a lot of these fights, and the reason for that is he just seems to find ways to win. And what's so impressive is Moragn Charriere had never been KO'd in his career, and even though he's got a lot of losses, he's like 20-11 or 21-11 coming into this fight. I think was Moragn. Very durable, explosive, fast on the feet. Solid takedown defense, right? We saw him in a crazy scrap with a guy like Nathaniel Wood. So I'm like, if you're not getting knocked out by Wood, even though you're getting hurt, Melky Costa, all of his KOs were prior to the UFC. He hadn't KO'd anybody in the UFC. It was either decision wins or submitting guys, right? Remember when Andre Fili dove headfirst into a guillotine, right? But at the end of the day, Costa's striking is good. And I even called this out on the live stream. I was like, we got that open stance battle, right? Charriere's the orthodox guy. Costa the southpaw. The back weapons are available. You're going to hear Cruz on the broadcast all the time talking about this. The backhand down the middle, the rear kick to the body, that can set up the head kick. That's exactly what Costa did, was throwing kicks to the inside of the leg, throwing them to the body, set up a high kick right around the guard of Moragn Charriere and gets a brutal flatline headshot, man. Headshot dead. Right there from Melky Costa. That was absolutely ferocious, and I think that's 5 in a row. isn't it? Right? Wins over Julian Erosa, guys like, C-Rod, now a win over Morgan Charriere, who's a super explosive and dangerous guy. Wildly impressive for Melky Costa, man. This guy's striking is smooth. He's very fun to watch, and a lot of his fights are very, very entertaining, and he could outscore you, he could submit you, and now we've seen the knockout power on display in the UFC. Love me some Melky Costa, man. Great performance. Oleksiejczuk versus Marcus Buchecha. This fight was absolute dog shit. This fight was dog shit. Just cut both guys from the roster. This was a draw. Round one, it looked like Buchecha was coasting and controlling the fight to be able to win the round, and then Oleksiejczuk, I felt like, stole it at the end by kind of, throwing some flurries, blitzing at Buchecha, landing some shots, and then in round two, Marcus Buchecha basically kind of was level changing and dove face first into an eye poke of Oleksiejczuk. And like I said, I'm glad that the referees are kind of standing their base with taking points, but it kind of does worry me a little bit because our guy's going to kind of play it up, even if they, with the eye pokes and all those kinds of things to get points taken, knowing that if the officials are going to be very aggressive with taking points, we're going to fall into kind of this territory because you got to remember, in 3-round fights, if you get an eye poke and, you get a point deducted, which I think it should have been in this case because the fingers were absolutely, they were fully extended straight out, which they're not supposed to be. But again, Buchecha kind of just dove right into him. So I felt like it was kind of this gray area. But I thought that he should have took the point. At the end of the day, if we want an answer for the eye pokes, take the point. And that's ultimately why this was a draw. Because in round 3, Oleksiejczuk, I think, did enough, landed the more significant shots. And, Buchecha was putting Kennedy in some dangerous positions, right? Chasing some leg attacks, chasing for submissions. But the problem was he was getting himself out of position, allowing Kennedy to defend and scramble to then create space and win some of those moments. So either way, I would just cut both guys from the roster, man. They looked absolutely horrible last night. That was a horrible fight. It was absolutely atrocious. So Kennedy should have won this because if he doesn't do the eye poke, even if he loses round 2, I think he still wins 29-28 off of a first and third round, him getting it done there. So again, shout out to Buchecha for continuing after the eye poke because those fingers were straight out, man. So that was nasty of Kennedy, but you talk about a guy that seems like he has this potential in Oleksiejczuk, but I don't know, he's lousy in there, man. He doesn't open up, doesn't get going. Couldn't see blind takedowns coming from a mile away. I don't know. Disastrous performance from both guys. And Marcus Buchecha has zero gas tank whatsoever. So I would just get rid of both of them. I was hoping instead of them saying that it was a draw, Dana would just walk in there and be like, we ain't even going to read the scorecards, man. You guys are both cut. So get rid of them both, man. That fight was horrendous. Bob Green versus Lance Gibson. And I picked Kennedy to win that fight, and it ended in a draw. Okay, so I picked Bob Green to win this fight for pretty much what we saw. Look, Lance Gibson, in my opinion, should have won this fight. This shouldn't have been a split decision. I thought it was pretty clear that Green won this fight. But I just figured that Lance was eventually going to get snake charmed by Bob. And that's exactly what happened in this fight, right? Green's got his hands down. He's emoting, what's up? Playing that Street Fighter game, getting into your head, right? It's like what we see from the Diaz brothers. Very important part of Bob Green's game. And Bob Green walking him down, landing those little front kicks to the midsection, peppering him with the boxing. And Green looked like in vintage prime Bob Green mode. He was sticking and moving. The speed was on point. The elusiveness was there. He was tagging up Lance Gibson, man, and getting ahead clearly on the scorecards. And even when Gibson took him down, I told you, Bobby Green's scrambly rascal on the ground, man. Wiry on the floor, hard guy to keep down, even got his own takedown, was able to beat Lance up on the ground. I was wildly impressed by the way that Bob Green looked, and I picked him to win because I'm like, Green's losing to guys like Pimblett, guys like Roofy, like Gibson's not that. But we know that Green's chin is very, very suspect at this point. He basically has no chin, but he ate some shots and looked fine last night. And his speed is still there. So while he's older, got that Roy Jones style with the hands down, first thing to kind of go is the reflexes in the eyes, right? But again, Bobby Green still got it. He was getting in and out of range, no problem. Tagging up Gibson, but again, Gibson was throwing out good feints, getting Bobby to react, but Gibson wasn't actually throwing off the feints. So the feints are no good if you're not going to follow up with anything. And he was trying to grapple, and I think he got discouraged by, Green just getting back to his feet very quickly. And Gibson, to me, should have been able to win this fight. I didn't think he would win because of what we saw, right? He was just going to get snake charmed and not open up enough. Felt like he was feeling the moment, wasn't busy enough, had the power, was throwing some big shots, but Green was just slipping and getting out of the way, man. Vintage performance by an OG and Bobby Green. Happy to see him get back in the win column, man. Love watching Bobby fight. Like his smooth, slick style. He's one of one with that style, man. So I really enjoy watching him fight. And I think Gibson's got potential, but he just looked like a deer in headlights, and kind of, the moment was getting to him there a little bit. I think he's gonna watch that fight back and be very frustrated with himself, being like, man, I'm throwing these good lead hand feints, but I got to follow up, after the feints. You get him to bite, you got to attack. You can't just be throwing feints. That's not going to score you points, right? Draw out the reactions, then exploit with the attacks. But this was no split decision. Bob Green clearly won this fight. Joanderson, Brito, Isaac Thomson. I was wildly impressed with Isaac Thomson. Now, I faded him in this fight because given it was the short notice, and also the fact that Joanderson Brito is very, very good. He's very, very good, and he's very physically strong, right? Got 8 takedowns, it says here. Right, but we saw early on Isaac Thomson was fast. Very, very good striking. Good straight right hand down the middle. Dropped Joanderson early. I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem for Brito, man. Thomson looks fast. He looks explosive, and his ground game was good. He was scrambling well, getting some of his own takedowns. But at the end of the day, it was the physicality and kind of that relentless, gritty pursuit that Brito brought to the table that got the job done. Right? And while Thomson didn't win this fight, so I don't really want to hand out a participation trophy here, bring him into the UFC, man. To step in on short notice and perform like that against a dog like Brito, I was wildly impressed. I was kind of more impressed with Thomson in a way than Brito. Brito still got the job done, and he clearly won, but Thomson looked great, man, on short notice, and Brito's tough. He's a dangerous guy, man. He throws these big, wild, ooga-booga winging shots where I'd like to see him get a little bit more technical, but he's got power. He's got nasty submission skills, and his grappling is good, and he would power bombed, Thomson a few times. That's dangerous when you're getting slammed like that. You could knock somebody out that way. Remember Rampage back in the day? I think Brundage did that as well to like Zachary Reese or something, right? Brito looked good, man. It was a tough fight. Isaac Thomson, I feel like this is a win that's going to age very well for Joanderson. And shout out to Joanderson for taking this fight as well. I know Thomson, props to him for taking it on short notice, but that was risky for Brito, man. Because if he loses that fight, that's a devastating loss against a guy making his debut on very short notice. So great performance by Brito. Really had to work for that one. This kid Thompson's very, very good. Neil Magny, Yaroslav Amosov. I picked Yaroslav Amosov to win by a round 1 sub, and I was kind of doubting. I'm like, am I being a little too disrespectful to the skills of Neil Magny? But it's just what I had seen from Amosov, right? He was a guy that I've been watching for forever in Bellator, and I'm like, he just feels like a UFC caliber guy to me, right? And I've faded a lot of the PFL Bellator guys when they cross over because they just don't have great debuts, or they don't end up panning out in the UFC or being very good. But I just felt like when you're 28-1, your only losses to Jason Jackson, who, by the way, I feel like Jason Jackson could beat Neil Magny as well, might even knock him out. Jason Jackson's a very, very good opponent. I feel like Yaroslav Amosov is just kind of a different grappler, and we've seen Neil Magny, while he's been pulling off these upsets, hits Unk mode, right? He's an OG, been around the block, holds records in the division. Like, Neil Magny's a dog, man, but at the end of the day, he gets taken down, right? And he came out aggressive with a point to prove, and I'm like, okay, we got a dialed-in Magny here. It just didn't matter, right? Yaroslav, what I loved was the composure, and he's a guy that's been in these title fights in another promotion, so having, the experience of being in big moments. While it's not the UFC, there's more of a crowd and more going on in those Bellator fights when you're fighting for a belt than in the Apex, basically, right? Or at least it's the same. So I feel like Amosov was very primed for the moment. He's been in, long drawn out fights before. His ground game is good. And I just figured, had some issues with the first takedown. Magny was defending well, but it was the levels that Amosov has to his game. The way that he just blends all of the grappling aspects together. He's got a nice system in place, was able to get him down. And just, to literally, I thought we were going to get a Sean Brady, Leon Edwards moment. Getting into half guard, get to that arm and guillotine position, and then he just beautifully flowed right over the top and locked in that anaconda. Wildly impressive of Yaroslav Amosov. Don't play that game now because a lot of people were picking Magny to win, thinking that he was going to pull off the upset here, thinking that Yaroslav was overrated. And Magny's been on a 2-fight win streak. So keep the same energy because Magny's been doing pretty well, man. He's only been losing to the best and most dangerous guys in this weight class. Yaroslav Amosov, I'm excited to see where he goes in this weight class, man. Very impressive debut against a guy like Neil Magny, and maybe they give him a Nicholas Dalby fight. We were talking about that in the live stream last night. So maybe they do a Nicholas Dalby fight. Maybe they give him a back-end ranked guy. Not quite sure, man, but I feel like a Yaroslav Amosov could go out there and beat a guy like Leon Edwards. Going to be interesting to see what they do with Amosov. Very impressive debut. Sean Sharaf and Steve Asplund. I mean, listen, man, I picked Steve Asplund to win by a KO. And look, this was one of the best heavyweight fights I feel like we've ever seen, dude. At least I've ever seen, right? Tits McGee over here. It's Steven Asplund, man. Titty boy, listen, this dude, he's a savage. He is an absolute savage. I love watching this guy fight, man. And when he went out there on DWCS and got that first round KO, I just felt like he was going to come out here and do the same. But this was a lot more of a war than I anticipated. But to be honest, I almost feel like, isn't that a little bit better than going out there and getting a starching KO in the first 10 seconds or something? Getting a crazy back and forth dogfight between these two. And shout out to Sean, man. He showed up as well. He wasn't backing down, got split open, was cut open bad, bleeding everywhere. This was an amazing fight, man. And Steve Asplund's got that like Holloway volume, man, in this weight class. That was crazy. To be a heavyweight with that kind of gas tank, as long as he doesn't get KO'd early because his technique gets a little sloppy, starts to hip fire like he's playing Call of Duty, you know what I'm saying? He could get himself into a little bit of trouble. And I still got questions about the ground game, right? Sharaf, I think, tried to level change one time. Steven defended well. Steven started to kind of hit a little bit of a flow going, right? He was moving, getting his head out of the way, playing good defense, and then just started peppering him with the jab once Sharaf was open, and I figured that it was just a matter of time before Asplund got him out of there, man. So listen, Titty boy Steve Asplund's for real, man. I like this guy, and I think he's going to break into the rankings. I could see him beating some of these guys in the rankings for sure. Got to tighten up the technique a little bit. Gets a little bit wild. That scares me, especially when you're fighting, better guys in this weight class. But we know in the heavyweight division, especially towards the back end of the rankings and guys that aren't ranked are floating around out there, not a ton of good heavyweights. So I feel like Steve Asplund will be a ranked guy at some point, man. I like this guy's story, inspiring, right? Losing all that weight, coming out here, and he's got a serious gas tank, man, for a heavyweight. So that's going to be something he can weaponize, right? As long as he doesn't get starched early. And he was eating some shots, man. So he's durable. He's got a chin. He's got cardio. He's got volume. And then when he was like a shark in the water. When he saw Sean slowing down, getting beaten up against the fence, he was, the volume and the output slowed down on Sharaf's side. Steven just was hunting him down, man. That was very impressive by Steven Asplund. Like watching the guy fight, man. I'm a fan. Very, very impressive stuff. That was a great fight, man. One of the best heavyweight fights I feel like we've seen, and honestly, one of the best fights of the year. Melissa Croden, Luana Santos. I was disappointed in Melissa Croden's performance. I picked Luana Santos to win, and look, I mean, her ground game's good, but I feel like Melissa Croden, she was just overextending on shots, and she kept getting taken down with the same takedown, right? She needed to keep her range and pepper from the outside, and it's just not what we saw, right? Inside the clinch, her balance was not very good. She just looked lost to me. When it came to, Santos kept hitting the same trip, taking her down, getting her, into that headlock position. And I don't know, man. I feel like Santos is good. Like, credit to her, it was a good win. But I just feel like Croden underperformed in this fight to me. I really do. She's the more dangerous fighter. Her striking is good. Her ground game, she kind of looked like a fish out of water. And Santos was basically just camping out in that position because Croden couldn't get out. She's trying to bump and create space, but Santos has a solid ground game, right? And Santos was landing some good shots on the feet as well. So good performance by Santos. And I feel like that's a great win because Melissa Croden, knocked out Lisboa in her debut. 6 of her 7 victories are by TKO stoppage, or at least by stoppage. So Croden's good, man. She's a dog. I was singing the praises of Croden coming into this fight, and Santos went out there and convincingly got that one done with the control time. So Croden overextending on shots, getting herself out of position, being lazy in the clinch. Not a good recipe against someone that's got good ground skills like Luana Santos. Big win for Luana, man. That was impressive. Alan Frye Jr. versus Guilherme Pat. I picked Guilherme Pat to win this fight by a KO, and honestly, Guilherme Pat should have KO'd Alan Frye. Like, credit to the durability and the toughness and not giving up on yourself, if you're Alan Frye. But, I mean, Guilherme Pat, I picked the guy basically off the intangibles, and that's why I picked him to win, right? He's got that light, footwork, good technique on the feet, straight punches, and he was rocking Alan Frye around, busting him up bad. I mean, this was a very one-sided fight. I'm looking at the striking totals here, but Frye landed like nothing of significance at all. This was all Guilherme Pat. Frye was throwing pitter-patter shots, just trying to clinch up against the fence and try to neutralize Pat, and it didn't work whatsoever. Pat was starting to slow down at moments, but it was the speed and the power of Guilherme Pat that prevailed in this fight. But like I said, coming into this, I just didn't think AJ Frye, while I like the guy, I just didn't think he was a guy that was ready for the UFC whatsoever. And I don't think Guilherme Pat is really ready for the UFC either. I don't think either guy is. But the UFC is looking for heavyweights, and if there was a guy that maybe has a higher ceiling, I would definitely say that it's Guilherme Pat. That's why I picked him to win. You got to see some flashes, the clean striking, the power, the left hook, the jab, the right hand, some leg kicks. But I can't help but feel like he should have finished the fight. So if you're not finishing Alan Frye, a guy that's kind of like a moving heavy bag, no disrespect, just saying, he was just kind of a zombie moving forward, no head movement, you can't finish him. I don't know how well it's going to go for Guilherme Pat in the UFC because it's only going to get harder. You're not going to get a fight that easy in the heavyweight division. Last but not least, Jamie Lynn Horth versus Teresa Bleda. In hindsight, I should have picked Horth to win this fight because one of the things that I said coming into this, why I picked Bleda, was she was the more skilled fighter. She had been away for 2 years, but she's a physically imposing fighter as well, and Jamie Lynn Horth is someone that's got good power and good skills, but I felt like she was out-techniqued by Bleda in this fight, but it didn't matter. The physicality, the strength of Horth, the minute that she started to stop the takedowns and was kind of shucking off Teresa, I'm like, nah, this ain't good. Bleda's going to get, something bad's going to happen here to Bleda. I expected her to get the takedowns, and even I didn't expect Horth to defend that easily. So the strength, the power, and then to go out there and spam a bunch of right hands and rock Bleda around and stop her in round number 1. I mean, who would have thought that this fight would have ended in round 1? I no way would have guessed that, man. Very impressive by Jamie Lynn Horth. I like watching her fight. I just felt like she was outskilled in this fight. But when you talk about physicality and power and, very, very good takedown defense, that's what we saw from Jamie Lynn in this fight. It was very impressive to go out there and get a first-round stoppage, especially at WMMA, something we don't see all the time. Put some respect on the name of Jamie Lynn Horth. That was a big win. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you're new, if you could sub to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Like I said, man, I've been glazing Manel Kape. People have been ripping on me for it, but I told you, man. I told you about Manel Kape. This dude is for real, man. This guy is an absolute dog. Flyweight's on fire. And that is the last UFC event of the year, the end of the UFC ESPN Plus era. It's been fun, man. It's been fun. We'll have some more content coming out as we get ready to wrap up the year as well. So stay tuned for that, man. And excited to talk about the first big event of the Paramount deal, UFC 324. See you next time.